evening, good afternoon to our GUS Global partners who are venturing in right now from all over the world. We have partners in the East, in the West, in the North, and the South. So we have partners in every country that you can think of on the planet. I'm sure that they are all logging in right now to join us on our Global Agents panel. We are going to be discussing some really exciting insights today, both from QS and from some of our real live agents who are the movers and shakers in their industries, making a difference in the lives of applicants who want to study abroad, change their lives by moving and studying and becoming an expert in whatever their field is. We are so looking forward to sharing with you today. My name is Kayla. You all know me. I oversee our business and innovation for our international team here at GUS. I am joined here today by some very cool guests, if I must say. And the first one that I would like to have introduced himself is Alex Berka. He's a senior market research and data manager at QS. All of you know QS. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Kayla. Oh, nice to be here today, and yeah, looking forward to talking about all of the research that we have gathered and all the insights that we've collected and shared with the rest of the industry.
Always great to have you with us. Thank you so much. I'm also really pleased to introduce Yomi Asade, who you guys will all see here on this screen. Yomi will introduce himself here in a second, but he is the country manager for Canada for Intake Education, which some of you may remember as UKS, and they have recently rebranded. We are very excited to have Yomi with us because he's actually living the dream really of some of the actual applicants that we work with all of the time, which is, you know, moving abroad, changing your life, running a company. So Yomi, welcome.
Thank you, Kayla. Yeah, I'm interested in speaking about the discussion today, and I'll be sharing a lot of insights on why we rebranded to the name Intake, you know, and once I have the opportunity to do that.
Awesome, thank you so much. And one of my personal favorite people who I'm so excited to see here today, Chris-Ann Thomas, who joins us from Tennk. Hi, Chris-Ann. Chris-Ann is one of our most valued partners overseeing the Americas. She is general manager at Tennk, and they are working in the Caribbean, where they are sending applicants all over the place. And Chris-Ann, thank you for your time today. It is so great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm honored for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get us started with some questions that we have planned for this panel, because these are some of the people who are actually in our industry, making the changes, doing the innovations, putting in the work to make sure that we get the right fit applicants to the right fit destinations, into the right fit programs, so that they can either take what they learn and build their communities and classrooms in their new countries, or that they can take back home and develop their own communities and countries. So we are going to start today with a question that I think a lot of us have already, which I will provide some background context for first with all of our partners. So those of you who are our GUS Global partners, you know that we have agents from more than 90 different countries every day logging into our GUS Gateway platform. And we have agents from pretty much every country in the world in our network, which is very exciting. So more than 12,000 professional consultants are connected as a GUS Global partner. And today we're starting a series with representatives from different countries for the very first forum of many to come. So these are our inaugural guests. During these sessions, we will discuss all sorts of topics that are relevant to our industry, hopefully developing a conversation that will help us all learn from each other. So I want to start today by introducing again Alex Berka, who is overseeing some of the research and data that we are most interested in. And a year ago, we met with Alex, actually, some of you might remember, to know more about students and their reactions to the pandemic. QS runs an ongoing survey to understand their interests and concerns, trends in the market. And we would like to know, basically, 12 months later, how much has changed? So here we are checking back in. So back then we spoke about a lot of them deferring their decision to study abroad. We see that this has changed. So I'll open with a very broad question for all of our panelists here, which is, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And that is a quote that is attributed to Albert Einstein. And what have we learned in these last 2 years, and how much has your business changed? Same for QS as it would be for agencies. We have all faced some really different and unexpected challenges. I would love to hear from each of you. Why don't we start with Alex?
Well, I mean, I think in very sort of general terms, obviously, you talk to agents from all over the world, and different countries are now kind of in different stages of the pandemic, and some are kind of very much looking forward to what everyone terms a new phase of living with the pandemic, which is you know, a questionable term, I guess, but some of them are looking ahead, and lots of other countries possibly aren't quite so progressed, and are still living in, you know, very difficult and uncertain times. And I think that's really reflected in some of the data which we're still gathering, which is that there are still lots of candidates out there who are still looking to study overseas, but who still can't do so, and their plans to study overseas are still being impacted, and you know, it's still very difficult for them to go through these sort of pre-enrollment procedures and processes, and for them all of the sort of visa applications, all of their applications in general, all of these things still very much being affected, and they still need a lot of assistance and a lot of help from different sources, whether that's from agents or from universities or from their governments. There is still a lot of uncertainty out there, and there's still you know, a really key role, I think, for all of those in the higher education sector to really help them through those processes. As far as QS goes, and what we've learned as a company is, you know, we've obviously had to pivot a lot of our business activities to be in an online setting. You know, pre-pandemic, a lot of our sort of activities were based around face-to-face recruitment events, which were obviously great because you get to see these interactions take place, you get to see these connections being made in a very real and tangible way. And that obviously has had to change in the last 18 months, and we really have had to pivot all of this to an online setting. And I think we have learned how to do that, and we are still learning how to do that, and our events are improving all of the time, and we're sort of building on all of these learnings in a very continuous way. But I think now more than ever, we're very aware of just how valuable it is to have those face-to-face interactions, and what you get from those conversations that you wouldn't get in a virtual setting. So we are very much looking ahead and looking how we can sort of optimize those parts of our business that may still have to take place in a virtual setting, but we're also very much looking forward to hosting events in a face-to-face setting where there's sort of a much more meaningful set of interactions that can take place.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alex. Chris-Anne, how about you? You are working with students in the Caribbean. And so how has your business changed over the last year?
Well, it has changed exponentially. As Alex said, you know, a lot of students were having difficulties. Their point of view has changed, but for the better for our side. A lot of people now are looking into Canada, and they're excited at the idea of, you know, kind of starting their careers, new careers on an international platform through schools like UCW, right? And we have been kind of forced to bring out the creative side of ourselves as a company, and the innovative side as well, sorry. And we had to move to online as well to do our information sessions, which was very sad because we love to, you know, meet the people in person and, you know, build the client company relationship. That's very important to us. But we have also put things in place to make sure that our students feel supported throughout the process, because the dream is still alive, the goal is still there, and we are getting more and more people every day asking, how can I do this? I'm in this situation. And it has been a very positive thing for us despite the pandemic. So we just had to push through, you know, get all the ideas together, but it has been going very great.
Brilliant. Chris-Anne, thank you so much. I love that none of the answers you just said were, you know, lie down and stop recruiting students. That's not the option. Yomi, same for you guys. Yomi, so you went through a rebrand, actually. Maybe you can tell everybody a little bit about, you know, what were you, and what now are you with Tennk Education, and maybe this last year also helped drive some of those decisions for you guys.
Okay, all right. Now, just to start with the rebrand, we felt we needed to rebrand because you know, it falls in line with our ambition to actually be a global player. And one of the things why we changed our name from UKS to Intake Education was that we actually have, along the line over the years, developed other destination markets, North America, Australia, Ireland. And we felt that, based on the demands of our students, we needed to actually, have something that, puts everybody together, and also, because we have a goal to also be a technology company in the future. We are adopting technology as, time goes by. So we felt that the name change would better reflect what our ambition is, with students being at the core center of the whole thing. As far as pandemic is concerned, it's been unprecedented, to everyone all over the world. And I could imagine the number of businesses that have been impacted, both within our industry and outside our industry, basically. It's been a learning curve for us, basically. And I know that there's been a lot of resilience by companies to actually, stay afloat around this period. For us, we've adopted technology, and we're still adopting technology. And one of the things that we've learned is that, we could recruit students virtually, because, we have offices, we have 30 offices across the world. And we felt that, before pre-pandemic levels, students, always come to our office and everything. But, by the time the pandemic happens, we have to, implement a business continuity plan, that involves, virtual, counseling with students, basically, and then we were, as agents, one of the things that we do is to try and sift students all over the world to ensure that you're getting the right student for instance, for University of Canada West, that you ensure that the students, is actually the appropriate fit. And when you get to meet them, it's a different ball game. When you're meeting them online, you don't know what they have behind them. You don't even know if the document is sending to you. It's quite genuine. And, that's one of the challenges we fix with virtual, counseling. But then it has actually, helped us a great deal to learn, to find way around it, basically. And we'll keep evolving as things change, For instance, we rerun a couple of sessions, online sessions, to recruit students over the past, 1 year. One of the things that we discovered is that there's a declining ratio of engagement with online events as far as students are concerned. Maybe probably there's a Zoom fatigue. So we tested the waters. In October, we ran an event, a hybrid event more like, and we found out that the engagement rate in West Africa was very high. I think people were tired of the virtuals, and they wanted to come and engage. And we felt that going forward we could mix the hybrid system with the physical exhibition to recruit, and probably that might be the way forward for us all to adopt. Because the pandemic is here. We don't know when it will leave. In different countries are grappling with different stages, basically. So we felt that we have to respond to it with the demands of the different markets where we operate in.
I think that's very clever also, because even when the pandemic entirely recedes, I say when the pandemic entirely recedes, we will all, I think, see that the adoption of technology and digital student recruitment across all of these different countries out of necessity is also going to open new opportunities and new markets to agencies and students alike, because you're no longer going to be bound by where is your nearest office. You would all be empowered and capable of connecting with applicants from all over the place. Hey, Alexandra, we have one of our additional panelists who's joining us right now. I'll have him introduce himself just quickly, and then I'm going to throw him right in by asking him a question straight away. So Alexandra is here with us from the Travel Mates Intercambio, where he is the CEO, but he is also, as many of you know, the current president of Berka, which is our Brazilian Agent Association. Hello, great to see you. How you doing?
Yes, hello, nice meeting you all. Sorry for being a bit late, completing my agenda here. So,
you were very busy, I'm sure, doing important things for students, like advising them on how to go abroad, so that's no problem.
Yeah, no, honestly speaking, it was in my agenda in Brazilian time, so I'm sorry, we are working in London time right now, so my own mistake, but I'm here.
You're right on time for yourself, that's all that matters. We're so glad to see you, Alexandra. I have a question for you now that you're here with us, actually, because we were just talking about opportunities in the pandemic and how people's businesses have changed, but what we're seeing right now, for example, at Global University Systems, we have 30 different institutions in our portfolio all around the world. We are seeing an increased demand to study abroad right now. So in your experience, are students looking for opportunities in different countries than they were 2 years ago?
Yeah, I've been asked about this over and over these past few months and everything, you know. So my own opinion is that I believe that once all countries reopen the borders, we're gonna life is gonna be just the same as before. You know, the figures or the number of students we're gonna see in Brazil and destinations and programs they're looking for, it's gonna be just as before because it was already booming in Brazil before the pandemic. So that's my opinion. But right now, what I've noticed here is that students, they are tending to buy programs to the countries that are already open for Brazilians. So, you know, and then as many countries started to reopen the borders for higher education programs before other kinds of programs and visas, you know, there has been a very good increase on the demand for this kind of programs for universities, colleges, and that kind of stuff, you know. And then after that, countries started reopen for high school programs. So we started having more sales on that. So as you know, as things open 100%, I think it's going to be just as before. And then talking about the Brazilian market, the market was booming before, and it's going to be larger than ever, I believe, after the pandemic.
Totally agree with you. Alex, at QS, are you guys seeing demand for different destinations than in the previous 2 years? I think that we all know, for example, demand for the US fell.
That is,
yeah,
that is true.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, which Alex were you talking to?
Oh yeah, you're both Alex. US Alex. we need to come. You guys need to change names. One of you. QS Alex. We saw a decrease in demand for the Americas, or no, well, for America, the North America, United States, ideally, yeah.
That is certainly true. When we think back to this time last year, you know, there was a lot of negative attention on the US for the way that it was handling the pandemic and the impact that was having on hospitalization rates and on the overall number of deaths. That has changed over the course of you know, the last year in 2021. When you look at countries like the US, which have very well progressed vaccination programs, that is having a subsequent impact on how attractive a destination it is seen for the US, and how welcoming it's seen as a destination for international students as well. It's something that, you know, there's been a real shift over the course of the last sort of 10 months since the start of the year, and how they've gone about that, and it's actually seen as a very positive thing now, the way that they've undergone all of that, just because it, you know, it for what it means in terms of a lower likelihood of going back into even a partial lockdown. It means, you know, there's a more likely return to a full university experience, you might say, and a return to a full face-to-face teaching experience as well. And that's a real tangible shift that we've seen. It's not just amongst the US, it's also amongst other countries like the UK, like Canada, like Germany as well, to a lesser extent. So it's something we're seeing in a lot of different countries which are closer to, you know, returning to a normal way of life, if you like. And that is a, you know, a real tangible and pivotal shift that we've seen.
So true. Our GUS Canada team, for example, signed new partnerships, acquired new institutions over the last 2 years, and the boom for Canada is ridiculous. And we're seeing the same sort of uptick now for Germany as well. We have a number of institutions in Germany that we are seeing with a lot of demand from new locations than we saw in the past. Question then for Chris-Anne, which is regarding online learning during the pandemic, not just online connecting with previous or future or potential applicants. Online learning in the pandemic, it's probably here to stay for the future of higher education in some way. Does digital learning open new opportunities to new kinds of students in your experience?
Yes, it does. That's an excellent question, actually. We have a lot of professionals who use our service. And for the most part, they're working. They're business people. They probably have their own business, right? And they can't really find the time to like say, okay, I'm going to take 2 years, to travel overseas and go and study. Before the pandemic, we had no idea that's why these people weren't using our services. So when we discovered that this was, the beginning of a new market, we took advantage of it. Just, promoting, saying, okay, study online, still earn your degree or your diploma. And a lot of people just came pouring in, and even regular students were asking, can we do part of our program locally and then travel afterwards? And we're like, yeah, sure. So it brought a new type of flexibility to what it is that we offer, and we're hoping that it will continue to be an option for students, because I think that this is a great platform for individuals to really look at and say, okay, I can still do this. I don't have to restrict myself, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's so insightful also, because for us, I think that when I last talked to you, Christiana, I was talking about, it seems like the applicants keep staying the same age and I keep getting older, but it means that there are also other applicants that I can find who are also looking to, level up to the next level of their careers. And us offering them flexible options makes them available to us, which I guess a lot of us were missing in the past several years when we didn't have it as a standard part of the programs.
Correct.
Yomi, how about you? Same experience?
Oh yeah, it's quite similar to what Chris just mentioned. I think the learning from the pandemic, has created an opportunity for online learning. All the industries all over the world are changing at a pace where people can catch up. So it presents an opportunity to upskill and reskill in a way that, it doesn't make you uncomfortable. You don't have to resign your jobs to learn new skills, basically. If you're diligent enough, you could do that through the confines of your home and your laptop, basically, while sitting down as well. So both macro and macro learning, are lessons that we've taken from the pandemic. And I think this will go a long way in shaping the future for people that want to learn, that you don't really have to be at the four walls of the university to learn. Although this may differ with different cultures, because the adoption of technology might be slower in some, part of the world than others, basically. But I believe that at the end of the day, it will still evolve to a situation whereby we can all learn on a platform whereby we don't have to leave our homes, and if we wish to, we might not want to, join the university. For students that are growing up, the youth, the Generation Z, the millennials, a lot of them still crave immersive experiences. They still want to gather together at universities, and I get that, basically. But for professionals and people that are quite matured, or people with families, basically, I think they will still tend towards online learning.
That's something that I know that we're also very interested in at GUS from the educator's perspective. We're looking at stackable credentials. We're looking at, in country, come finish on campus. We're looking at how we transfer people between our campuses. We've got, beautiful campuses in Paris, Athens, Berlin, in Toronto, in Vancouver. We'd love to be able to send people all around. So I think us breaking down our own concept of what is a traditional education path is so powerful for all of us. Alex, not from QS, Alexandra, how about for Brazilian students? Are we seeing that this trend towards online learning is, well, first of all, helping you guys find new students? And I guess second of all, similar to what Yomi was saying, maybe preparing them also for a real career. I mean, we're connecting digitally right now, aren't we?
Yeah, of course, I agree with everybody. This is something that's going to increase in the future. But I believe Brazil is still very slow to buy international education online. So I really believe that this can be a really good trend, even to help us recruit more students, especially packaging hybrid programs. Maybe you can take your first semester in Brazil online, and you're gonna save this much money because it's so much cheaper, to take this from your home. And then you take the second semester abroad, or kind of that. So I believe that's a very good, thing we would need from the partners, like from your school, is to train our agents better on how to sell these package programs, like hybrid and in person, afterwards. So trying to show them how this can really make this more affordable to people, so we can reach more people. So that's what I think is missing still in Brazil for us as agents, because we're just doing this our whole life, just to send people abroad. But then, so to introduce this online learning abroad, when we learn more about it, I think we're going to have better results. But I think we still need to have a better practice on that.
I think that's super helpful feedback for us, though, to be able to develop programs that upskill partners in selling new kinds of programs and new destinations. I think that's really wise. Actually, I'm going to take that on board. We see also that Brazil, sometimes some of the students that they're sending abroad also are some of the more mature students in some other markets. Could online be an answer for them, or do you think that migration is still the real goal?
Yeah, honestly, I believe the migration part of it, is very important for Brazilians, because when they see these opportunities abroad that study, they can also work abroad. So it's going to be a better, experience. They're going to learn more out of that. They have, in some countries, they can bring the family along. So, in my point of view, from what I've, noticed in the market so far in Brazil, it's more of the migration part of it, and the easy ways to work abroad and have this experience that maybe even stay longer, than just the will to buy international academic programs. It's more of those opportunities. That's what I think is more popular in Brazil, and that's why you see so many mature people going abroad from Brazil. So that's what I believe is really the point here. Yeah.
Thank you. So why don't I ask Alex QS if we're talking a little bit about accessing new kinds of students, running new programs, doing all these kinds of things in the last year. If you could give some advice to some of our partners who are here with us. We have small, medium, and large agent partners all over the world. So for those that have, for example, a restricted budget to spend on resources for marketing communications, what's the most effective thing for them to be communicating about? What, based on you guys' research, matters the most to students?
Well, I think certainly when we sort of ask these kinds of questions to respondents in our surveys, what we always get back is that there's a whole range of sort of aspects about a university which they would like to hear about, and it extends across numerous different areas, and it's not all tied to one thing. So they'll want some information about teaching staff and the lecturers who will actually be teaching them. They want to know about their previous experience, whether that contains any sort of experience outside the world of academia. They want to know about previous qualifications. They want to know that they themselves have a passion for the subject matter, and that they can ensure a very positive and engaging course structure and degree structure. They want to know if there are any avenues for them to connect with existing international students within those institutions which they're considering. And we have kind of followed up on this because it relates to sort of the more informal side of going to university. Possibly it's more around the clubs and societies and the social side of going to university, which I'm sure we'd all agree is a very fundamental part of that university experience, but is also something which they might not be comfortable asking a sort of formal university staff member about. They want some information about sort of work placements and what are the university's ties to industry like, and how much they can support them with those experiential learning opportunities, but also how much will they support them sort of finding a job once they have graduated, and how much can they put them on their chosen career path. They want to know about student accommodation, student halls of residence, and that's always been something which they really kind of prioritize, but I think it certainly has taken on a renewed focus in the last 18 months, should we say, with so many students who have had to sort of undergo lockdowns and restrictions in their own student halls of residence, and that's really taken on a very renewed focus recently. Ways for them to optimize their application as well. Things like that. So that's not just from a very practical perspective, what are the deadlines, but also what are selectors looking for on an application. They very much value those kind of practical hints and tips. For some of them, it's all around sort of visa guidance. So again, how do they go about that process? What do they need to actually get that? So there's a whole range of things relating to not just the sort of their time at university, but also that pre-enrollment journey, if you like, and how they can more easily sort of progress through that journey as well. So there is a whole range of things, and it all kind of they're all as equally as important as one another, really. They want to hear about everything from a university. So it is, I think, more important than ever to have those sophisticated marketing strategies to be able to communicate all of this to a candidate, because there is certainly that demand and that expectation that they will have that constant line of dialogue and communication when they're in that pre-enroll phase.
Brilliant. And for any of our partners who are interested in learning how to build marketing journeys for applicants all the way through from, first contact through to I've been accepted, we at GUS Academy run all kinds of skills trainings that we will certainly be happy to have any of your staff members join us on. So I'll have my team drop in the chat here how you can connect with GUS Academy. Alex, do you think that that's also one of the reasons why we saw a big transition of the pool of interested applicants from Australia to Canada, because of what you were just saying about lockdowns, restrictions, all of these things that students could have expected to experience if they did find themselves in Australia through some miracle last year?
I certainly think that's a contributing factor. Yes, we've certainly seen that, particularly in 2021 with Australia and New Zealand, which again, this time last year, we were talking about how well they'd responded to the pandemic and how well they'd sort of kept case numbers down and kept that negative impact on their societies to an absolute minimum. And that sentiment has definitely shifted in the last year. And those countries which still have very restrictive policies on international travel, they are now seen to be less welcoming to international students than they were at the start of the year. And by contrast, those markets like Canada, but also the US and the UK, they've gone in the opposite direction and are now seen as more welcoming. So there is a very direct causal link, I think, between vaccination programs and how much they've progressed, and also how they relate to international travel restrictions, and then how welcoming and attractive that destination is seen to be towards international students. And I think that's directly related to an enhanced appeal for destinations like Canada as well.
Absolutely. I'd like to turn this question back to some of our agent partners. Maybe we can start with Chris-Anne on this one. So surveys are showing that agents are more relevant today than a few years ago. And you all just told us at the very start of this a bunch of reasons why. The applicants need a new and enhanced kind of support. There's increased unfamiliarity. And so the partnership of an agent in their process is really essential. So based on these surveys, we see agents more essential than ever before. We're not surprised to see that at all. So as agents, if you could speak to every dean of the universities, for example, what would you think that they should learn about your business in order to work more successfully with their agent partners, given that agents are obviously the difference makers today for a lot of applicants?
Okay, well, that is a good question. And I like the question. Well, of course, being an agent is not always easy. We have to deal with a lot of different scenarios, and you learn something new every day, whether it be good or bad. And but the good thing about being an agent, or even or agency from my perspective at least, is that we are there not just as the type of support that people think. They think, okay, that you're gonna just go find people and let them register for my program, and it's not that simple. The support that needs to be offered by an agent has to go a lot deeper than that. We have to be there for the some personal situations for the student. So we have to guide them. We have to be that pillar of support for them going throughout everything, and be the middleman between the institution and the student, so that we can interpret this information, because different cultures communicate differently. And so it's important that we not only help the student to create their study plan and kind of find their way through the process, and get to their goal, and even kind of help them create their goals for them. Some of them don't know what they want to do. Right? But it's also imperative that schools know that we also need their support to help us with the information that's going to be communicated, to have things done on time. These are critical things, because while they're looking at just the paperwork most of the time. We have to be communicating with these people on time, and just relaying all this information. So the support from the school is definitely essential to that, and GUS has really been exactly that for us. So thank you. But yeah, so if I was supposed to talk to the deans of the institutions to kind of let them understand, or how play that vital role, I would say that we go deeper than just what it is. That anything that you're thinking right now, just think it's way beyond that. Right? And
I think that's very wise. That is very wise. Chris, Andy, that's so, you put it, you always put things so beautifully, and that's why I love having you on these sessions. These students, wherever they are in their lives, if they're 50 years old, if they're 15 years old, these students have this like precious dream that needs to be protected and defended against all kinds of things, against people who don't have their best interest at heart, against people who see them as, it can be the same for universities that see them as just a number in the seat. That's equally bad. Any agency that sees them as, a dollar sign, bad. All of these things are there on the path for them. And so we are so lucky and also proud of our GUS Global partners acting as like shields around all of our applicants on their way through this journey, because it is not as easy as it sounds. You're exactly right. Yomi, do you guys, what would you want to be telling people as an institution that has, I think you said 30 global locations. You guys are very large. You see a lot of different kinds of students. What would you want to tell these universities about the role of an agent?
Thank you. I think I quite agree with what Chris said. I will say this, that, I want university administrators, counselors, and everybody to know that there's a knowledge gap that exists between the students, the fee-paying parents, and the university. And agents stand in that gap to ensure that everything is streamlined in a way that, everything works together, like a gear. So what I would say is that, for instance, just as an example, international students need to be better managed in terms of the culture shock that they experience when they land in university. How is the university treating that process? Basically, different students from different part of the world, they fly down to universities to start their course, which it's the primary purpose, but they are grappling with other things. How is the university responding to that to ensure that the students settle? Because this is part of the student journey, and it helps the student to settle in academically well, and impacts on their study as well. And all the things that we agents grapple with are in the identification of genuine documents. Things have gone online. Sometimes we need university to help us, to be able to make that process work faster. We don't have equipment to identify fake documents from original, basically. But if we could get enhanced support from university on those kind of areas, it will go a long way in helping us, to make students that equally fit the particular university or program that they are meant to go for. So that's just what I would say. I would say, a lot more support is needed, and this changes with time and changes with policies as well.
That's so true. That's one of the things that when we launched GUS Gateway, just at the very beginning of this year, really, one of the things that we immediately wanted to invest in extending to our partners was our review center service. So every application that comes through our agent portal is checked by a human being before it gets packaged off and sent to that institution. So that you guys don't have to be the ones who are responsible for it. Are all of these documents right? Are they the way they're supposed to? Well, that's one of the key things. You're absolutely right. We have to take away some of this operational load so that you guys can do what you do best, which is advise students. Alexandra, what do you want our universities, all universities, to know about Brazilian agents?
I think Yomi and Chrysan just outspoke everything I think about as well. We get more in the psychological part of it as well, which is a big portion for international education. But I would say to any university dean that wants to recruit students abroad, don't recruit direct. Always recruit through an agent. You're going to have more students and better students. Maybe you're going to spend a little bit more with some commission payment, but this is going to pay you back at the end of the road when you have better students and better, people counseled by us. So that would be my ultimate call to all of them. It would be it's a great hand for us when sometimes a school that we are really close with gets a direct contact from a student. They do like an initial talk, and then it's, look, go ahead now and talk to this agent. We trust them. You close your deal with them, close your matriculation with them, you're going to be better served. This would be superb. This is superb for us when this happens. So that would be my honest, say to this university deans and everybody. Let us do the job here, and you're going to have better results in the future for sure.
I agree. It's one of the things that I'm always counseling agents on when I do get to speak to them, and they're talking to me about, how do I pick, there's a bajillion universities in every location I can think of now. They're all over the place. So how do I pick the right university partner to grow my business, which is equally important for our partners all over the world. And what I always tell them is find who is investing in the region that you are working in. If we are paying partners, we are investing in your region and the growth of agencies and agent partners in that region. Anybody who's going direct to students, or anybody who refuses to work with agents, for example, why should a Brazilian student, a student from Jamaica, a student from Taiwan believe that that institution is then going to invest in them? You need to invest not just in the students that you want to see, but you also want to invest in the regions where you want to see those students from. That's how you develop a true cultural exchange. I have one question that I have left, and then I'm going to see some of these ones that we have from our audience. So just audience, I know that you're all listening to me. We have a Q&A box over here on the bottom of your toolbar. We also have a chat section on the right-hand side. If you have questions for our panel here, I know some of you have already been submitting them. I can see those. I would like to ask about marketplaces. So a lot of marketplaces, platforms, whatever you'd like to call them, launched in the last 18 to 24 months. First of all, because it was really necessary for a lot of people to stay in business. And second of all, because it's the natural progression, I think, of our industry in general. As e-learning comes, of course, e-applying comes with it. So what, in your experience, I'll start with Alex from QS. Alex, in your experience, how are marketplaces disrupting, either in a positive or a negative way, the student experience, the student recruitment experience, maybe the experience from the universities as well?
I mean, I guess it sort of depends almost on defining what a marketplace is and different marketplaces. So, I mean, how do you see it in a very broad sense, I guess?
Yeah, so marketplaces could be a lot of different things. That's a very good point. So let's just ask about one of them, for example. So some are like agent aggregators. Let's say they've got a platform and they've got like thousands of institutional partners on it, maybe, and they have thousands of agent partners as well. And so you could think of it like an Amazon store of education, where we're scrolling through and applying people to all our different institutions.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think you have to look at it in terms of overall capacity for those different organizations to process those sheer numbers of applicants. And if you think of this purely in data terms, the amount of data that's being gathered on them and the ability of organizations to actually process that, I think institutions and I think organizations will need to become smarter in the ways that they are able to do that, and that will involve automating as much of that as they can, I think, inevitably, because the sheer number of numbers of applicants coming through, and you think about the scale of international education and how that is projected to grow in the coming years, that will inevitably leads to a situation where it's so difficult to go through the numbers on a very manual basis and in a very careful way. So I think yes, it will involve some change in the way that we process those applications and the way that we speak to those candidates. But yeah, I think it will also mean that we'll need to figure out how best to have those face-to-face or person-to-person interactions, if you like, and how they and what's the best role for them, and what stage are those introduced into that overall process.
Absolutely, totally agree. QS also launched a solution, a different part of the business than you're in, of course, but QS also recently launched a solution as well for that. GUS Gateway was nominated as a finalist for the Pioneer Awards in Digital Innovation of the Year for Technology, and we were in there with QS, who did win the award for a very, very cool piece of tech that they have put forward, which is helping, if I'm correct, it's basically helping to profile different kinds of applicants based on a multitude of different factors of data. What is the need? What is the capacity? All of these things for these institutions. That's a super cool solution that you guys have. It's also very accurate that institutions need to prepare for the scale that they say that they want. If they want to be having thousands of applicants coming to their institution, there can't be any negative knock-on impact from recruiting thousands of applicants on the students who do come through. Yomi, how about for you guys? You have a very huge network of agencies all around the world and colleagues that are working with you on student recruitment. Thoughts on these platforms?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just to add to what Alex just said, I think data-driven decisions is key to every industry, and same thing goes for our industry. However, we should be careful not to make student a commodity, because that is very important. Because I remember that we do send surveys to students who have gone on to study from us, and they do value the face-to-face experience they've had with our advisors. We call them advisors now, not counselors, basically. And I think how we put students through the journey when they first approach us, either digitally or walk into our office, to the time that they get to school, is also very important, basically. And I know universities want to recruit different students. Diversity and inclusion is actually at the core of everything we do today, basically. But we should be careful not to make student a commodity. We should prioritize the student experience, in the midst of all this, because they are at the center of what we do. And that's why at Intake, we prioritize that one-to-one and advising students as well. And I think that is key to moving forward, basically. We will also adopt data, but we adopt it in such a way that, we would not, make the human angle less relevant. So I think a bit of both, a careful balance is what is needed.
I love that. Data-driven decision-making, not data-decided decision-making. Yeah. Very important difference.
Yeah.
Kristen, how about for you guys? Platforms, how are they positive, negative impact for your team?
Well, I completely agree with Yomi. Too many times I see people trying to make students a commodity, and it's unfortunate because the student suffers for it. For us, I think that the personal touch is always something that students need. If they have a question, they must have someone who they can ask. I'm currently living in Canada, and a lot of students who are here, I am their support person. And I don't know how most of them would get through their journey here without having that kind of communication, the availability to have somebody there for you. So I think, yes, these platforms, they might have a place, but at the same time, it doesn't replace the original standard, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, it should. I guess that's what all technology ideally should do, or maybe that's just my opinion. But what all technology should do, I think, is increase the impact and the power of people, and make each of us have a better and greater capacity to service more people doing whatever it is that we do well, rather than robots taking our jobs. So, Alexandra, what about in Brazil? Platforms, I know in Latin and Central America in general, there's heated debate about the pros and cons of using different platforms for different stages, really, of the recruitment cycle.
Yeah, of course, I believe what with our colleagues just said, but at the same time, I believe that if the platforms are here to help us as agents, to maybe have a link to more institutions, that sometimes it's possible for us. As you said, there are small agents, middle-sized agents, large agents. So it's at the same time, you know, not only for the agents, but also for the school. Sometimes for a school to have, I don't know, 1,000 different agents is so hard to deal with. For us as an agent to have 1,000 different schools to represent, it becomes, you know, really impossible as well to manage. So the platforms, they do help an agent to maybe have access to more institutions abroad. But as I said before, it does help the agents if they do not recruit direct. You know, I'm here to hold the flag, you know, of the agent service, you know, and because we just discussed it just before, you know, the job of the agent is so important to make this international living experience available and impossible for everybody. It's not just the data that they are buying or just the program they are buying. You know, there is a living part of that. So if this, you know, I had a discussion in another panel a few weeks ago with some people from Asia, and one of the agents, he said that they call this platform super agents, you know. So I think it's a really good name that they give them, because it is a super agent, you know, but it's a super agent that is just a computer, you know. And an international education is not only that, you know, it's that plus our personal job here as we're trying to defend here as agents. So if we can really mix this together, we can make it happen. It can be valuable to everybody, for the whole industry, you know, because at the end of the line, all of us, we're all here working to get better results every day. So once we link the forces and we know the place for everybody, you know, we're gonna be successful together.
That's so true. We have a comment from Abdelaziz from Marrakesh saying, more human we are, more successful we will be. I think that's very true. Okay, we have a question from our participants over here, which I would love to ask you guys, which is, do you see or hear in your offices when you meet students and their families, things that you think education institutions are not considering yet? So I think what we mean by that question is, when students and their parents are coming in to see you guys about making the big decision, moving abroad, studying abroad, are they bringing things up, questions or concerns or anything that you think institutions are not addressing, that you as agents are having to step in and address that for them? Yomi, let's start with you.
One of the questions, I mean, for instance, we have some of our offices, I mean, it differs with different markets. In West Africa, for instance, basically, we do get parents asking us if universities could streamline the process of making tuition fee payments, you know, because they have to go through hassles with the bank sometimes in getting that payment across, basically, you know, and then of course they can get a little help from the school, from the institutions, you know, if probably there's a portal or some sort of way that money can be paid or tuition can be transferred, that will make it less stressful for the parents, you know, that will go a long way as well, basically. And also another thing that, you know, which I've mentioned before is that, you know, a lot of parents, you know, especially for the undergraduates, are more concerned about, you know, how their students are being settled into institutions as well, you know, in terms of, you know, how would they be able to settle in well to, you know, be able to, you know, start their academics in a way that, you know, it doesn't disrupt them, you know, and they can settle in and focus, you know, very well. You know, those are some of the areas that, you know, we hear parents talk about and more concerned about, you know, welfare, you know, those are the key things that we maybe probably, if university school address, will help us.
Awesome, thank you. Chris-Anne?
Yeah, same here. The students and their parents, they are usually more concerned about settling once they arrive, because, you know, it's a new country. They don't know anything about anything, you know, they're just going in because they know the institution and they heard of Canada and they might have done some research, but they want to know about accommodation. And some of the times the institution does have some, you know, information that they can provide to students. However, I've found that it's sometimes not sufficient, because these students do struggle with finding that. And also, basically, well, I think it's more so settlement than anything. Yeah, so I guess that's where I am.
And Kristen and Yomi are actually in Canada, so they're there to help the students show up. I don't know about some of these agencies that don't have people in the country. It's, you're right, it's very important.
Kind of like really been very creative and try to find a way to help most of the students here. I've actually walked around to visit some of the accommodations that the students are finding. They're like, oh, I don't know if it's real. Can you help me? And so I would go and find out, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Got to make sure we're not sending them to the Squid Games by accident. Alexandra, what about, is it the same for you? Accommodation mostly?
Yeah, it's a big part of that as well. But I would just like to add that, especially talking about higher education programs, usually students look for those programs because there is a call out for potential jobs abroad, either throughout the program or after graduation. So, and sometimes, honestly speaking, the schools tell us that there's going to be a lot of people that are helping for that, but it's not always that. As it's really needed by the students, the help for the job placements of these students, when this is possible with the visa and also, after graduation and stuff. So this is like how we can fish the students, to go abroad because they have these job opportunities abroad. But then when to make this realize, I believe that institutions could do a better job helping us. That would something I would like to add.
Brilliant. Thank you all. I'm going to wrap us up here because we have just 3 minutes left with our audience who are with us. I'd like to note something in our closing that I think is really important for all of us to circle back on, which is that despite the challenges around the pandemic, shift to online recruitment or to online studies, this January, we saw reports that showed that more than 60% of agents were highly optimistic about their recruitment for the next 12 months. So that's over half of the people in your market are highly optimistic, not just regular optimistic about the times that are coming. So given that this is the situation that we are all in together, we at Global University Systems, and I'm sure all of us who work together in the industry, I think that we have a lot to be optimistic about. And I think one of the main reasons for that is something that Alexandra was very kind to touch on for us, which is collaboration. And so all of us working together, investing in each other, investing in the markets where we wish to recruit students from, investing in those students once they come to our institutions, new partnerships, new destinations, new platforms, all of this stuff that's been happening over the last year. If we as a team of people who work in student recruitment are able to keep students at the center of all that we do, if we're able to collaborate with our partners across the different verticals of our industry, I think that there's no reason why we can't have continued growth and success, regardless of all of the many factors that influence international education. Because also, like Christian was saying, the dream is not dead. The dream is very much alive. And that's something that Alex, I'm sure from QS could confirm for us. The dream from international students is 100% alive. Everybody wants to study abroad. Everybody who wants to go change their life and move abroad and go study and become the best at whatever it is that they want to be, that's not changing for any reason. And so as long as we can keep, through our partners, at least at Global University Systems, connecting those students and those agents to the right opportunities, there is so much to be optimistic about. So we thank all of you for your time here today and for spending this with us, the first in what we expect to be a many, many, many part series of a Global Agents Forum, where today we heard from Alex Berka from QS, Yomi Asade from Intake Education, formerly known as UKS. Then we have Chris and Thomas from Tennk and Alexandra Argenta from Travel Mate Intercambio, but also from, of course, our dear friends in Brazil at Belta. So please say hi to all of them for us as well. Thank you to all of our GUS Global partners who joined us on this session. We look forward to inviting you to maybe be on this next panel for the next one. So if you're interested, you know how to get in touch with us. You can reach us anytime at guspartnerscomms@gus.global. And if you are looking forward to joining us for other events in the coming week, you can also sign up for any of our remaining GUS Gateway to Canada or our upcoming GUS Gateway to Germany events. So we'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you all for your time today. We're so happy to have spent it with you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.